to really clean up. Right there. Wait. That's some bloody search.
SOS, where?
Yeah.
You think I'll do that?
Don't waste a minute.
No.
Mm. Oh,
Ready, Mr. Mayor.
ready to go? Righto. Welcome to the Snowy Valleys Council meeting of the Thursday, the 21st of September, 2023. I'll ask Councillor Hughes if he'll give the acknowledgement to Councillor Hughes.
Mr. Mayor, the Snowy Valleys Council Bailey acknowledges the traditional owners and custodians of the lands and waters that we're on, and pay respect to the elders past, present and emerging.
Thank you very much. I'll now read the preamble. Live streaming of the council meeting. This meeting is being live streamed on council's website to allow the community to follow council's debates and decisions. Members of the public participating in a meeting agree to have their images, voice and personal information, including names and addresses, recorded and publicly broadcast. Snowy Valleys Council does not accept liability for any defamatory remarks or inappropriate comments that are made during the online course of this meeting. Any part of the meeting that is held in closed session will not be live streamed. Councillors are reminded of the oath of affirmation of office that is made under section 233A of the Local Government Act 1993 and the obligation under council's code of conduct to disclose and appropriately manage any conflicts of interest. Please ensure that mobile phones and other electronic devices are turned off and are in silent mode for the duration of the meeting, and no recording of voice or images is permitted. In the event of an emergency at council meetings, please evacuate the building using the nearest exit and follow the instructions given by the wardens. Do not use the lift. If participating in the meeting from an alternative venue, please enact the evacuation plan that the location requires. We'll go to item 2. Apologies, leave of absence and remote attendance. I don't believe we have any. Is that correct? Declarations of pecuniary interest. Are there any?
I have one, Mr. Mayor, in
Councillor Livermore.
relation to item 10.3. I would have a non-pecuniary, non-significant interest there, being a member of one of the organisations, and I will leave the meeting.
Very good. Thank you for that.
I have one in this relation to 10.2, is non-significant, non-pecuniary, and I'll also leave the meeting.
Thank you for that. Director of Corporate Services. No others? If there's no others, we'll go to confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting, 17th of August. Someone move?
I'll move.
Councillor Thompson, is there a seconder? Councillor Livermore. Any discussions? Any issues arising? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Correct. Carried. Look, there's a suggestion that we move forward the election of the mayor and deputy mayor to this point in time. Is there any objections to that? If not, I'll thank someone for a motion to move item. What's the item?
9.1.
9.1. Be considered now. Is there a seconder? Councillor Ham, Councillor Armour. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Righto. I'll hand over now to the returning officer. Mr. Pinnock?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, councillors. In accordance with Schedule 7 of the Local Government General Regulation, the General Manager or his delegate is the returning officer, and I'm going to undertake that duty today. To date, I have received 2 nominations for the position of Mayor, both which have been submitted correctly, being one for Councillor Chaffey and one being for Councillor Hayes. Are there any other nominations for the position of Mayor from the floor? If so, we can take them now. No? Okay, well then we might move into, if someone would be prepared to move a motion as to how the election of mayor will be undertaken, or the election of mayor and deputy mayor be undertaken by either ordinary ballot, which the Director of Corporate and Community Services would hand out a ballot sheet, preferential ballot, or by open ballot, which is a show of hands. So
I'll move that we do by ordinary ballot.
right, do we have a seconder? Councillor Larder, Councillor Hayes, Councillor Larder. Right, Jess, can you hand out those forms? So the 2 candidates are highlighted. So if you could just place a cross against your preferred candidate, that would be appreciated, and then we'll.
Is it a yes or no? Need to actually.
Don't do that.
Haven't voted on it, sorry. Can we just have a show of hands? For,
To do it this way.
a show of hands to do it by open ballot? I mean, yep, open ballot.
Sure.
Yes.
Yes, no tick.
Yep.
Sorry.
Thanks, you.
Well, you can check them. I'll just shuffle them up a bit. Oh, we'll just put it in the pile there. The usual changes over the ones. Cherry. Yeah, right. Thank you, councillors. After conducting the election, I declare Councillor Chaffey elected as mayor until the 14th of September 2024, 7 votes to 2.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I hope I fulfill your expectations.
Okay, if we can move on to the election of deputy mayor. I've received 2 nominations to date, being one from Councillor Thompson and one from Councillor Hayes. Are there any more nominations from the floor? If not, you might just bear with me for 30 seconds. Jane, if you'd like to hand those out for me. Same situation, the two candidates, councillor Thompson and councillor Hayes are highlighted. If you could mark it with a cross or some identifying mark for your preferred candidate, it would be appreciated. No,
You can have any more.
am I sure?
Nancy doesn't need a vote.
I don't need to vote.
Well, I had nine.
I'll vote. I won't vote.
How many short?
Can we just use the mayoral ones and?
Sorry. I don't know what I've done with those anyway.
Thank you. Round around.
Thank you.
It's into the sewer though.
Make another bit. Thank you, councillors. After completing the count, I'd just like to declare councillor Thompson elected as deputy mayor on 14th of September 2024, 6 votes to 3.
Thank you.
Very good. You've got a challenge.
Yeah.
After that, we'll now move to item 5, correspondence and petitions. There are none. Notices of motion of or rescission. I believe we have 2. Is that correct, Mr.?
2 notices of motion, that's correct, Mr Mayor.
No, you move it. Audio visual.
Would you like to move, councillor
Yeah,
Armour?
thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move that audio-visual recordings are done of public forums that are associated with and held prior to ordinary or extraordinary meetings of council. But at this point, is it okay to add something to that?
Yes, Minister.
Because I think it'll probably need a little bit of adapting in our guidelines of governance of to make the timing work, right? So how shall I word that? Maybe the
Yep.
GM can help me do that. wording.
Yes, I will. So I've got item 2, suggested councillor Armour, that a report be brought to the October meeting on the proposed changes to the code of meeting practice to facilitate the audio visual recordings of in public forums.
Thank you.
So you'll move with that
So move
inclusion,
in that.
councillor?
That
And
inclusion.
I'm happy to second it with
It's been moved by
the.
councillor Armour, seconded by councillor Thompson. Is there any debate?
Proposed changes to
Yeah,
practice.
No comment?
I'd like to
If
speak.
it's coming to the next.
To facilitate-
There's no comment. I'll put them up. Sorry,
Thank you.
councillor Armour, do you wish to speak to it?
Yes, I'd just like to point out that I believe that all ratepayers have a right to hear all points of view for and against as put by those addressing council on issues associated with the ordinary and extraordinary meetings of council, basically, until we get that report next month.
Very good,
Thank you.
thank you. Councillor Larder?
I'd just ask why we need a report. I mean, you either do it or you don't. Why waste more staff time preparing some report when it's pretty obvious you either want it or you don't?
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
Councillor, are you happy if I'm?
Yeah, most definitely.
Councillor Larder, I guess the issue I raise, the way the code of meeting practice is at the moment is that it provides quite a bit of a process. And if I just grab it around the public forums, for example, that each speaker is allowed 5 minutes, and then with each question that a councillor might ask, they're allowed 5 minutes. And then the general manager or his representative is allowed 10 minutes. So it was just really looking at those sections of the code of meeting practice to try and streamline them a little bit to.
I don't disagree with you, but I think it would be easier just to make a decision as to whether we want it or don't want it, and then allow you to come back with a report about how you're going to introduce it or not introduce it. That would be the simplest.
Still going to come back. to
Can
the
I,
board.
can I just make comment?
Councillor
The-
Thompson?
The difference is that we are voting yes to record, but as part of that, we feel that this is the opportunity to also, so it'll be recorded, but we also need to understand what the process for the public forum is. So that's what the report is on, not whether or not we record it, but actually the part under it in relation to the public forum speakers.
So can we
Process.
pass this and then get a report?
Yes,
That's what's being suggested.
we're requesting the report as part of passing the fact that we will record the public forums.
Well, taking on board what Councillor Larder said,
I think it'd be an idea to have an idea of whether people support it, so you can just come back with a plan of how you're going to introduce it. I mean, if there's unanimous support for it, let's just go ahead and work it out.
Can we put the motion up to
point
2 points?
one,
Yep,
Let's put the first bit up.
and that's a point two.
But you can't change
Just
the code of
hang on a
meeting.
second
we're
while.
going to move part one or the lot?
Can't move
Well-
the code of meeting, change the code of
No, no,
meeting
no,
practice without.
No,
resolution.
so
Resolution.
why don't
Look,
we, look, why don't we just do it as two separate resolutions?
Right,
Might be the easiest
put
way.
that-
It's a related matter,
I'll put 9-1 up, 9-1A up.
6-2,
All those in favour?
6-1,
Against? Carried. We'll
and
now deal with item 2
part
or
two,
part 2.
Yep.
Part B.
which is a bit about bringing a reporter back. But look, I think it would be quite practicable to include the public forum as is suggested in part 1 or in the first resolution on the basis of the current code of meeting practice, and then subsequent ones after the October meeting would be under the new regime.
Yep, right. So
If everyone's
is
comfortable
everyone
with that
happy with that?
approach.
Can I just ask a question? How do we change doesn't the code of meeting practice actually have to be changed by resolution?
We're not I'm not suggesting we change the code of meeting practice tonight.
No.
What I'm saying is that we would just, well, by the
We'll record the next
public forum.
public forum.
Correct.
Under the
Yep.
resolution passed today,
Yep.
and management, I would assume, will bring forward the mechanisms that are required to
We'll
accommodate a more, what would you say, refined?
refine
process.
code of meeting practice because point 8 in the order of business for the ordinary council meetings actually has the public forum as item number 5. So we'd actually be complying with the code of meeting practice if we shifted back to item number 5,
Which we haven't been.
which we haven't been, but that's fine. And then we'll look at refining the code of meeting practice as a secondary action.
Righto, okay. We'll now go to
Notice of
9.
motion.
Notice, the second notice of motion. Councillor Armour?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My motion states that we collaborate with National Parks Association to continue to lobby for undergrounding of all part of the Hume Link transmission infrastructure. And again, I'd like to do an addition to that.
Is there a seconder?
Yes, I'll second
Seconded
that.
by councillor you wish to speak to it, councillor?
Yep, it's just important at the present stage that we show a united front as we continue to lobby for undergrounding for HumeLink with the new upper house inquiry coming.
So that's additional to the comment.
Just
Yeah.
a point of order.
Councillor Armour, do you
Yeah.
want to move a second
Well-
part to that?
Did you want to move a second part to that?
Well, I did that. We also collaborate with the other councils, e.g. Yes, Lockhart and Wagga, preparing a combined submission to the newly announced select committee.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. The previous resolution, we broke into two parts.
Mhm.
We moved one. Did we just,
From my understanding, section 2 or part 2 was not proceeded with.
didn't proceed with it? We didn't vote on it, so obviously we
No,
didn't proceed
we
on it.
didn't proceed with it.
So no report.
No.
Okay,
Well, I don't think it precludes me from bringing back a report on the code of meeting practice
If you want to.
If I think it's a good
That's
idea.
right, if he chooses to, no?
Yeah.
Very good. So now we've got two components of this notice of motion, have we,
Yeah,
councillor? Armour?
I've done it again. I've added a bit to it.
Have you given Jeannie the?
No, I haven't.
I just need to
Sorry.
know the exact wording.
Yep.
At the moment, I've just got show a united front and collaborate with other councils in relation to same.
So that we also collaborate with the other councils, e.g. Yes, Lachlan and Wagga. Sorry. Preparing a combined submission to the newly announced select committee.
Councillor Hayes?
I think it should be Lachlan Shire, it should be Upper Lachlan, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually.
'Cause
Might
it's
you
not going
change
to
that,
Condobolin,
Hughie?
is it?
Hmm?
Going to Condobolin?
Not yet.
No.
Upper Hudson.
And just make sure you got the title of that select committee. Whatever, I'm sure that's not all of it.
That's a second, I'm
State.
happy with that inclusion.
State Senate Select Committee?
No, it's not Senate, it's Upper House.
Select.
New
State
South
Upper House,
Wales
just-
Upper
Select.
House Select Committee, isn't it?
Yeah.
Select.
Yeah, that's right.
Are you happy with that?
Do you wish to speak? Is there a seconder?
I've already seconded.
Seconder, councillor Thompson. Do you wish to speak to it, councillor Armour?
I think to say exactly the same thing again, we need to present a united front and make it as strong a submission as we possibly can.
Very good. Is there any, councillor Arter?
Can I, look, just make the point that I think these people are beyond dealing with. They're an affront to our community, these people at Transgrid. I mean, who the hell do they think they are, that they can just roll on in and think they can do whatever they like, and the government's giving them tacit approval to do all this. There was some Clayton's inquiry that they just have ignored, and now they're going to have some other thing that's going to roll on and keep everyone happy for another 6 months while they dilly around doing nothing. I mean, these people, they're obviously going to go ahead and do this. There's no doubt about it. So it's a matter of what we do. And I think we need to have an embargo on dealing with these people. So that's it. We're not going to help you with anything. You want to put people here, you source it yourself. We've had enough of it. And just tell them to go and get stuffed.
Councillor
Can I
Hayes?
just comment on the mental health people closely involved with this? Whereas I excited that the community have decided to go with the select committee, but just being part of the last inquiry, a lot of time, effort, research goes into this to these people that put their soul into this, and you can't help feeling, as you indicated, that it was a tick and a flick.
It was, there's no question about it.
Absolutely, and the mental health people involved in this just needs to be noted that the council's behind you, that unfortunately we're not making a huge impact at this stage.
Mayor, I went along to that Upper House
Councillor
inquiry and I spoke along with you. And when I left the building, I thought, oh, that's good, they've listened to us. But they didn't hear a word we said.
No.
They didn't take any notice. They asked
your
a
dad.
question regarding fires being lit from high tension power lines. I didn't at the time have the information with me, but I later found the information and sent them photographs of a fire that started in December 2019, I think. Just out the road here, and I attended that fire myself. And then the chair of the Upper House Inquiry goes on the Country Hour, ABC Country Hour, and says we weren't provided with any evidence of fires being lit by high tension power lines, and I sent them photographs. So they didn't listen at all, and I'm very, very disappointed, and I share some of Councillor Larder's sentiments.
Look, as a result of the outcome of that inquiry, I couldn't agree with you more. I think it was just an exercise in going through the motions with a predetermined outcome. And, speaking to the presentation at the EIS at Batlow, so, I think the whole process is designed to confuse. There's 19 particular issues or cases presented on each individual item within the EIS. They've given you 28 days to respond, and realistically, to do a complete analysis of the EIS, you'd need more than 26 days, full days, to even evaluate what they're trying to say. So I do feel that based on the dilemma that both the federal and state governments find themselves in as far as the provision of electricity in the eastern seaboard and South Australia is concerned, they've backed themselves into a corner by failing to address the fact that coal-fired power stations have a finite life of about 50 years. And now at 1 minute to midnight, we're between a rock and a hard place. And I just raised the issue that as a child, I remember listening to the radio in Sydney being told which suburbs were getting blacked out tonight because they couldn't supply power. Can you imagine that today? And that's what they're worried about. Anyway.
Could I close the debate then?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Councillor Hanson.
I don't think I disagree with any one of you. It's been an absolute emotional nightmare for 3 years now for many people. But what I'm also telling you, being at the coalface, is that those people wish to keep going. They have more ammunition themselves up their sleeves. All the groundwork has been done. We've had one heck of a good submission to the committee that wasn't listening to us anyway, because it was the chair was a Labor Party and the other three were, so it was a 4-4. So I think it's harsh to say that we weren't listened to by the other four. The other four have come up wanting to do this to get it non-partisan, including Kate, whatever her name was. She speaks.
LaGreen. She spoke really well.
She spoke really, really well, and she's totally committed. So I think we mustn't. And Joe McGirr, Dr. Joe McGirr has done an absolute marvelous, and he wants to keep going. And he has told all of us to keep at it. And we're prepared to do it. The people with all the emotion are prepared to do it. On that basis, I think we owe it to those people who have put so much into it to complete this final run. There are no guarantees, but it's not just this line. A lot of the groundwork will be used as the next lot of lines come through 2 years later and 2 years after that. So I think we owe it, with all the money that and time that have invested and all the emotion that's gone down the gurgler, that we just follow through. We have commitment verbally from Upper Lachlan. Wagga is on site. I've finally been able to talk with Yas, who want to join us. You know, you don't give up when you're so close to an end. Even if you're going to lose it, because you want to know that you've done 100% your best, even if it isn't for the benefit of the people that are going to follow. Because I'm telling you, HumeLink is only carrying as much power as Snowy 2 is providing, and there's all the rest that's got to come into that grid yet, and it's got to go through. And we can't ignore the fact that we have got to change the way we power our nation. So whether it goes over or under, it's still going to happen. So I just think we need to keep going, and I plead with you that you keep supporting the people that have put so much into it.
Thank you, councillor Armour.
Mr Mayor, can I ask a question?
You can ask a question, councillor Hayes.
Will there be a motion from the Canberra Region Joint Organisation tomorrow supporting this, or will you be shewing that?
We'll use it as a forum to raise the issue. Yes, most definitely.
I think, because I think all these councils are members.
That's right. Yeah.
And could I ask a question too? Just because I don't know
Councillor
the
Ham?
answer. Can this go to the Land and Environment Court?
If there is 50 good submissions into the EIS, that's why then we will have another, I don't know, I haven't got the wording of that, I've sent it to you.
It's the Independent Planning Commission.
Yeah, it'll go to the,
Independent Planning.
yeah, so I've been.
So we've got to really encourage people
to
put
do
in
50,
submissions to the EIS
just 2 pages, as long as they are individual submissions.
and not just a road.
Yeah.
And how's council going
Right,
with our submission?
Well, we will get it in within that
great.
timeframe.
Excellent.
We've written for an extension.
We've
2
written
weeks.
for an extension, and Mr. Wilton has spoken to them individually or directly. We asked for a 3 months extension. They've given us a 2-week extension, so I
10
think it now
days.
closes, Mr. Wilton, on the
10th of October.
10th of October. Is it? 10th of October.
And there's no prospect of further extensions?
I wouldn't have
Thought
thought
so.
so at this point in time. It depends how much pressure they get from others, I suppose,
Yeah.
you know, so it's, again, that's possibly something we could raise at the Canberra JO meeting in the morning
Right.
tomorrow.
Very good. If there's no further debate, councillor Armour's closed the debate. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Righto. We'll go now to 9.2. Is that correct? Determination of the number of councillors.
Item 7, mayoral minute.
Sorry, mayoral minutes. My apologies. There's no mayoral minute. Urgent
business.
urgent business. No urgent business. No. Finance report, governance and finance report,
9.2,
9.2.
9.2.
Back to council.
page 31.
Oh, no.
It's council members.
Council numbers.
Determine the number of councillors.
Happy to move it.
Happy to move by councillor Ham, seconded by councillor Thompson. Any debate?
No debate.
If not, I put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. We'll go to 9.3, Regions Rising National Summit, 13th and 14th. Someone moves a recommendation. Councillor Rada, seconded by councillor Ivel. Do either of you wish to speak? If not, councillor Ham, do you wish to make a comment?
I'd just like to say thank you for the opportunity to going to this summit, which I attended last week. It is always run while Parliament's sitting. So we had Catherine King speak, we had Christy McBain speak, Peter Dutton, Michael McCormack attended the dinner. Look, it was a great networking with other regional groups. Though I did come away with the feeling like there is a problem with housing, there's a problem with lack of resources, there's a problem with getting teachers, nurses, allied health, and why it was good, and it was a good way of sharing information. There was a little bit of a feeling of we've got a long way to go in the regions at the moment. So, but once again, I know I did get some good things out of it, but it did highlight it highlighted the problems of the regions, but I would like to give credit to Liz Ritchie, who's the chair, and Dr. Kim Horton, who's the CFO of the RAI. they have been fighting to have regions grow and flourish for over a decade now. Liz is from Deniliquin. She runs a really good show. And it is nice that you've got these people that are very well connected to the politicians and government that are out there fighting for a better regional community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further questions? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. 10.4, 9.4, I should say. Long-term financial plan.
9.4 is the
Sorry,
rescheduling.
I've jumped the gun here.
Yeah.
2
Governance.
pages. 9 point, rescheduling the ordinary meeting, council meeting, October.
I'll move.
Moved by councillor Thompson, seconder, councillor Hughes.
Can I just make comment though?
Councillor Thompson.
And I do fully support this. I think it's a great way to do, but it's not always possible to reschedule council meetings if some councillors are going to be away or staff are going to be away. So while I'm really happy to do it in this instance, I think we need to be careful that we don't always set precedent. There still would have been a quorum of councillors, but happy in this instance.
Any further comments? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. We'll now go to 9.5. Long-term financial plan. Is there a mover of the recommendations?
Yeah.
Councillor Livermore, a seconder. Councillor Ham. Any debate?
Can I move we go into committee?
You can. Councillor Ham's moved that we go into committee. Is there a seconder? Councillor Thompson. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. We're now in committee. Councillor Ham.
Well, I'll go straight to the top. And first of all, it's very lovely to have a new general manager here who's very used to rural councils. And thank you for coming along, Steve. So with that nice introduction, Steve, you haven't been here long, but obviously there are concerns with the finances, and this long-term financial plan shows that. I can't help being a little bit concerned that every time I see a long-term financial plan, the figures are all different again, and just feeling. I'd just like your opinion on our financial state, as much as you can give us with having been here such a short time.
All right, thank you, Councillor Ham. Well, look, I don't think it's any surprise to any of the councillors in the room today, or senior staff for that matter, that Snowy Valleys Council is facing some significant financial headwinds, and I mean significant financial headwinds. The position is such that it is going to require council to take, action to remediate that. And the plan is to bring a report back to a council workshop on the 5th of October that will, I think, clearly articulate just the breadth of the challenge that council faces in becoming financially sustainable. And obviously, as part of that, as we've already resolved to do as part of the operational plan, is to go to the community around a special rating variation. But that's very early stages, and we haven't started the community consultation yet. But I think that the workshop that we'll have on the 5th of October will, if it hasn't already been demonstrated to council, will demonstrate to council the need, certainly, to go to the community to seek their feedback on an additional SRV, even though it's close on the back of one that's just been implemented.
Councillor Ham, any further?
Oh, well, it's just very sobering, and probably as we expected. And how do you find our finances in the presentation, and are you confident with the figures at this stage?
Well, look, I think there's a lot of I think there's still a lot of work to do in relation to the maturity of the financial reporting in particular, and look, that's something that the Director of Corporate and Community Services has only been here for a relatively short period of time. The Manager of Finance has only been here for a relatively short period of time. So, they've both started in an area where it's been sort of budgets, audit, hopefully get those two large chunks of work out of the way, and we can concentrate on making sure that the financial reporting, is accurate, not just for councillors, but for all of those budget holders in council that are relying on that accurate information to undertake their jobs. So it is definitely a priority. I think between now and Christmas that we try and do a lot of work around that to get that piece right.
Thank you. That'd be wonderful.
Any further questions?
I'll
Well,
move to,
look, I think what we need to be aware of is that in going down the proposed path that we're suggesting here, that we need to be in a position to act when we fully identify what the financial implications are. If we do it one after the other, we could find that we don't have time to address the issue appropriately within the time frame that we're allowed. Because to be quite honest, we're in a position where the federal assistance grants have been prepaid 12 months in advance. If at some point in the future that were to revert to the normal process, we would have a period of time where we had no financial grant. And that, to me, would be catastrophic for this organisation. And I think the General Manager and their senior staff have put a way forward that will set us in a position where, when we fully understand what the implications are, we will be in a position to go to the community and gather their input, whether it be in favour or less than positive to what the situation is, so be it. But we cannot just sit around waiting for each particular act to happen. We need to be running this conjointly. So I think that the proposal here will give us that degree of flexibility in the future. If there's no further...
I'd just ask another question. We've been the emergency services levy. Has that gone up again? Or have we got any reprieve there? Or?
There's no... My understanding is there's no reprieve.
No.
Through the General Manager to the Chair. So the levy has increased by around 307,000 as council was being subsidised previously, but that's no longer the case.
So weren't we around 600,000? And now are we 900,000?
No, we're around 4, and now we're around 786,000.
And so this time last year, that was not in the long-term financial budget, was it?
No, it wasn't.
No. So that's just an understanding why these things keep changing. Because I do note on page 66 how the author of this report says cost shifting, and over the years how the cost shifting is happening more and more, and it's likely that this trend will continue. And I think why you go to the Canberra JO, we need some operational funding.
We do. And look, I'm sure we're not the only council in New South Wales facing this dilemma. Yeah.
No, but we also have a lot of ratepayers who we know are really, really
experience the same pain. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And that's why we've got to be very conscious of making sure that we're putting forward a case that is real. It's not hypothetical. It's got to be substantiated by the facts. And, obviously, none of us like finding ourselves in a position where we've got to put our hand deeper into our pocket. But the reality is that unless this council becomes financially viable, we'll become insolvent, and we don't want to end up in that position.
Well, without grants, we are insolvent. Without grants, we are insolvent.
That's right. And the FAGS is because it's been paid in advance, is a situation that we're relying on at this point in time to keep us solvent.
Well, our salary is far more than our rates income. So, that's That's the way we are. We've got to rely on grants. Can I ask, is there a table of all the councils and the percentage increase for all the councils? Has that been published?
Or special rating variation?
No, for the
RFS.
emergency services levy.
Oh,
There should be, surely.
LG New South Wales might have something. I
Yeah.
haven't seen it.
So what percentage is that increase for us?
I'll have to work it out, but when I was reading some information provided to, from LG New South
32.
Wales, most councils had a 50% increase.
It went from 400,000.
Just over 50%.
700, it's close to 50%.
Yeah, that was the average
Sure.
across all councils.
Just
That-
another example of cost shifting.
Exactly.
But that was on the basis of this, I think in the last year or two, they gave an adjustment where they only charged 50% of the levy, but memory serves me correct, if you went back 2 or 3 years, I think that's when there was a big jump in the amount of the emergency services levy.
Correct.
Well, when you think that the emergency services levy is collected by way of a levy on or a tax on insurance as well, so we're obviously dragging in a significant amount of money.
Oh, I can make a quick comment around it if you want me to.
Hmm?
I can make a quick comment around
Okay,
it if you want me to. So I think when the variation or when the significant jump came in, it was around when they started getting a number of workers' compensation claims. And then they did some actuarial work around that the cost of that, which is what caused the premiums to go up significantly. So what they did for those first couple of years was they underwrote that increase each year for a few years, probably 3 years. And then
That's right.
now they've determined that they're no longer in a position to underwrite that increase that was due to that, I guess, jump in premium. So there's been a lot of councils, not only Snowy Valleys Council, that's been caught out by a sudden increase in their emergency services levy.
Well, everybody's, in the same boat.
Everybody's been caught out, yeah, but there's been a number of councils that weren't necessarily budgeting for that higher amount across the state.
Well, the Snowy Valleys several years ago, our increase was the highest in the state.
Anyhow, like you can
I
understand the
think that
dilemma
was
when you're
back at the
facing
fires too.
We did get burned.
natural disasters like occurring. And look, maybe I'm wrong, but they may occur on a more regular basis. And
That's what's going to happen.
we've always had the belief that we'd be better off endeavouring to combat the effects of them rather than wait until what
Is
happens
it
and then
possible-
do something about it.
Is it possible to have this on our rates notice as a separate item?
Like they do in Victoria.
Not
So,
at the moment.
well, it's a bit disingenuous if the government's putting it on us but won't allow us to have that.
No.
That's not right. So it should be, it should be a little bit more transparent for the ratepayer to know where they're, what it's costing them.
Yeah, look, the only thing we could do, if we're sending out renewal notices and then the annual notices, which have already gone out for this year, but I assume that there's probably a flyer that maybe goes out with the rate notice to talk
This
about
includes-
where money's spent. That'd be an opportunity
To
to
highlight.
highlight it, that's where it's going. Well, that's where a large portion is going, because I think a lot of the ratepayers and residents of the Shire would be surprised if they knew how much council's contribution was.
I'm sure they would. In
But they
fact,
don't think of it.
I think the majority of them, they wouldn't be even aware that we do make a contribution.
It burns up a special rate variation very quickly, doesn't it?
But it also goes, when people say, what do we get for our money? Because they look and they go, well, I don't use your rubbish, or I don't, and you say, well, a significant amount does go into the emergency services, so.
Can we do that? Yeah, I can't see why not. Certainly something that can be looked at.
Yes, that will be communicated as part of the SRV process.
But can we have it in our rates notices?
But there's no reason why we can't put out a press release to the effect that, we've now suffered an increase on our emergency service levy of X dollars, which equates to,
It's about a quarter of what we collected in the SRV, isn't it?
Perhaps a graph over the last 5 or 6 years.
Graphs are good.
yeah.
Make it clear
And then we can send it on to Alan Kohler.
Maybe he might do something with it. Righto, okay.
I'll move
if
to
that's-
do that.
Move,
Yep.
we go back into
Yep.
council, moved by councillor Ham, seconded by councillor Hughes. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, against, carried. Mover and seconder with the recommendation in the first instance, happy to proceed? If so, I'll put the motion. If there's no further debate on the issue, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against, carried. That's 9.5. Nine point six is revotes. Is someone move the recommendation?
I'll move that.
Councillor Hayes, is there a seconder? Councillor Ivel, any debate? Councillor Hayes, do you wish to make a comment?
I will.
Councillor Thompson?
I just, through the general manager, just the Tumut SPS Murray Glen Emergency Storage Project. I'm sure people would look and wonder how come council's paying that. Could someone just explain where the funding for those projects comes from? So that's the Tumut SPS Murray Glen Emergency Storage Project.
Do you want to talk to that, Jess? Or you want me to talk to that?
So
Okay, so it's obviously a sewer pumping station.
It's not here, sorry.
Yep, it's obviously a sewer pumping station. So on the left-hand side there, basically, it identifies that it's essentially coming out of will be funded by the sewer fund. So it's, I guess it's in and out of a reserve, but it's a unexpended cost from 2022, 2023, which is going to be expended in 23, 24. That's not actually in the operational budget right now as we speak. So that's the reason.
Yeah, no, I think the point that I was trying to clarify is where did those funds come from initially? So
Well, out of the sewer fund. So
Yeah,
when
but
you
how did they get there in the
how
first
did-
place? Nick, would you like to
no,
expand on that for us?
Through the chair, so essentially these works were prioritised, catchment works that were required to upgrade a sewer pump station that was up near the Glen Estate. Essentially, how these works are funded is each individual lot so basically an equivalent tenement is generated when a lot is subdivided. It's about $7,000 a lot at the moment. That money goes towards sewer and water headworks. And that's where money goes into a restricted fund and then is reallocated through these projects that are identified, including sewer pump stations and also the sewer treatment plant.
So in effect, it's funded by the individual property owners. It doesn't come out of general rates from the rest of the council area.
That's correct.
Yeah, thank you.
Just one other question. The Tumbarumba waste treatment site line marking, $80,000 to mark lines.
well, I can't comment on the cost of the project, whether Mr. Mitchell can.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, I can't give you any information on the line marking, other than we will look at the carryover amount to see if the work that is being carried over is required at this stage. So that's something I can look at.
Thank you very much.
Question on notice, I think, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, fair enough.
Can I ask another question? Do you know if we got anything in the state budget for roads? Anything over above with potholes?
Only our standard R2R,
So nothing extra in potholes,
not at this stage, no.
which that was promised in the election. So it might be something we can follow up.
I thought they'd set aside additional money for rural roads in the budget. I just can't answer how much. but I do
66
think
million
there
or
was
something, of which
We're
I
not
Yeah.
using
we
our
would have
money
got
of
some.
schools.
I know the fund you're talking about, but I'm not aware if we got any money through that fund,
Right.
through potholes, yes.
Very good. No further questions. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against, carry. 9.7, council's expenses for the 6-month period. Someone move the recommendation? Moved by councillor Idle, seconded by councillor Ham. Any debate, any discussions? I think there was a comment someone made not so long ago about putting the total amount at the bottom there might be an
Yep.
appropriate mechanism.
You've made a couple of notes about that, Mr Mayor.
Very good, thank you. If there's no discussion, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against, carried. 9.8, statement of investments. Any questions? If not, someone moves the recommendation. Councillor Larter, seconder. Councillor Livermore. Any discussions? Pleasing to see that some of the rates of return have gone up significantly. I do notice there's one or two still at a very low rate, but they'll be coming forward for renewal shortly. There's no further discussion. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against, carried. 10.1, management report, proposed tourist and visitor accommodation for 404 Goobragandra Road. There is a recommendation.
Mr Mayor, can I seek clarification, please?
You can seek clarification prior to having a motion. Right.
The clarification I'm looking for is that I don't believe we have adequate information in relation to the development application to proceed with making either a determination for or against the application. I think that there's a lot more information we need to be able to understand, including what the use is going to be. Considering that the Goobragandra Valley is sensitive.
Need this clarification.
Clarification is how do we hold this over so that we can gain more information? Because if we move the recommendation as it is, we either need to approve it or not approve it. And I don't, in my opinion today, I don't believe I have enough information to be able to proceed with a determination for or against the application.
So we're deferring it?
You wish to move that way, councillor Hayes? Councillor Hayes has moved that we defer discussion until
more information is forthcoming.
we want to identify some of that information.
Sure we can. Just
Right. Okay, is there a seconder?
Yes.
Yeah, you can.
Can I speak against it?
The deferral.
Just that we went out there, I believe the planning department has been working really hard with this. I think we've been given a lot of information in front of us. I think that when you read attachment to the draft conditions of consent are really working very hard with the neighbours who rightfully so are concerned about this. I think I'm happy with the information that's that we've got in front of us.
Councillor Ham, through the mayor, I'm happy to vote on it, but at this stage I'll be voting against it.
And that's fine.
Right, so,
Can we try the deferral?
well, just a moment. It's been moved that we defer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Councillor Ham has spoken against the proposition. Is
So-
the speaker for?
Can I speak? If we've got the motion to defer and it's been moved and seconded, it gives us the opportunity to be able to move into committee to discuss.
Who seconded that
Who
motion?
seconded the motion?
To defer.
To defer, I did.
Councillor Thompson, all right. So if you want to move into committee, that's fine. Someone move?
I'll move that we're going to.
Moved by councillor Thompson, seconded by councillor Livermore. We're now in, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. We're now in committee. Councillor Ham, you've made your comment,
I've
right?
just said,
Is there someone, councillor Arter?
I just concur with councillor Ham, but I think for there to be for me to vote for a deferral, I'd have to understand what the rationale is for it, because what you want to know that's not there.
Councillor Livermore, do you want?
Yeah, Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, going through, I think there's a number of things there. One sort of pressing issue for me is I'm not sure that simply describing it as a tourist and visitor accommodation development is exactly what's proposed to happen here. The other issues within the information that's there, I don't believe there's enough information that really satisfy requirements such for wastewater disposal and so on. I think there's a number of issues there that it doesn't address the adequacy of the existing system for the dwelling that's there. And following the site visit, I just don't believe that system's adequate even for the dwelling. Now, it's not proposing to put the new units into that dwelling. That's going to be another standalone system. But without detail of that system, the domestic type AWTS systems are generally only good for about a 10-person population. And there's a number of other technical issues with those that, I won't sort of go into now. But so I think there's some reservations about that. I'd have some concerns. I've probably put the old health surveyor's hat on here about the adequacy of their potable water supply for people. By default, something like this that's open to the public, they're operating a public water supply. So we need to be sure that what provision they have in place to make sure that water supply is safe for consumption. There's also issues to do with their water supply for firefighting and so on. Now, they're only showing a single 10,000 litre static supply tank. When you read the RFS conditions of approval, they're talking about a static supply of 10,000 for every occupiable building or structure, I think is the term they use. So that would put it up to a need for about, possibly 70 or 80,000 litres static supply. So look, there's just a number of issues there. I'd have concerns with the marquee type structures on the banks of the river. I know there's one there at the moment that's an unapproved type development. They're proposing another one on the plans now. And going back to the DCP provisions for that Goobagandra area, it's talking about the creation of riparian zones. Now, whilst you can argue about that, but it's probably not specifically defined about what that means, but I don't believe it means buildings on the bank of the river to create a riparian zone. A riparian zone is generally a zone of protection. So it would involve, natural ground, maybe tree plantings and so on, but certainly not buildings and activities. So I think there's just a number of issues that haven't been addressed in the application. So, I certainly wouldn't be comfortable approving it. I wouldn't be comfortable refusing it because I don't believe we've actually asked for all that information for them to actually show us how they're going to manage all those issues. So I think the applicants should be required to provide that information.
Possible motion with some additional information sought up there that Councillor Hayes and Councillor Thompson might have a look at to see whether it's appropriate.
There's a possibility, Councillor Hayes, do you want to have a look at the proposed potential motion up there, which deals with the gathering of more information?
Can I add to what Councillor Livermore said,
You
please?
can, Councillor Thompson.
When you look at the DCP and you also look at what RU1 zoning is for the area, for me, the concern is at no point have they clearly indicated what is going to be happening out there. And there's already regular yoga classes out there. There are advertisements on social media in relation to a 3-day retreat, $295 per person. saying that there's X number of spaces within the home itself, but then more people can come and bring their sleeping bags and sleep in the marquee. I think to understand what the use is, and when you look at who the client is, it refers to simply yoga. So is this just 6 hubs of accommodation, or is this going into a whole new industry? And therefore we need to fully understand, does it comply with the RU1 permitted with development application, or is it part of prohibited? And also just keeping in mind that in the DCP, it refers to the future of the development in the valley must be sensitive to a fragile environment. We've had floods in the past. I have grave concerns about the viewing platform being able to take out other structures downstream. You know, we've seen the significant flooding in that area. So for me, I would like to understand exactly what the business or what is intended to go out there. It's not just about a simple thing of, oh yes, they can have 6 pods.
In a kitchen.
Any
And a
further
kitchen.
comments that anyone wishes to make?
Oh, look, just to say, councillor Thompson mentioned that the DCP says that future development of the valley must be sensitive to the fragile environment. It further goes on under key controls, it states, in addition to requiring that new developments minimise any adverse impacts in the valley, council requires that any new development achieves an overall positive environmental impact. Now, we know about conflict of land use, but I think this is another example of conflict of land use in the Gubagandra Valley. But there's other conflict as well. There's obviously a conflict with existing residents, or potential conflict with these existing residents. There's potential conflict with the environment, and you know the traffic will be a conflict as well. So you know there are all those issues that to me haven't been answered. So you know at this stage, you know if it's not deferred, I'll be voting against it.
So can I ask, sorry, if we've finished our discussion in committee, shall we move back into council? Someone move that way? Councillor Ham, seconded by Councillor Hughes. Put the motion, all those in favour? Against, carried. Councillor Hayes, would you be happy with that?
Councillor Larder was...
Sorry?
I was just going to ask if it's okay, just through you, Mr. Mayor, whether perhaps Mr. Wilton might be able to address some of those.
Yeah, by all means.
That were raised by the councillors. I mean, just an observation. I think when people make an application, we have to accept it in good faith. I mean, we can't. We can certainly adhere to the rules, which we're obliged to, but I mean, I think it's a stretch to be becoming private investigators and jumping to conclusions about whether they're going to have sleepovers. I mean, this sort of stuff is not helpful. I mean, people obviously submit it. You know, from the point of view of the council officers, it meets the criteria. I mean, there's obviously some councillors have got some questions about certain aspects of it, which may or may not be valid, and I think Mr. Wilton should be able to respond to that.
Do you...
Through the chair, at the end of the day, the council staff have undertaken the assessment based on the application that's been submitted. The application identifies as a hotel development, a tourist and visitor accommodation that is permissible in the zone. The other issues relating to existing or potential future uses becomes a compliance issue at the end of the day. Look, in terms of the uses that are carried out on the site at the moment, that doesn't form any part of the assessment of the current application. We have to assess what's before us. In terms of, there's been a little bit of discussion there in relation to the interface with the adjoining neighbours. Council staff believe that they've been appropriately addressed in the actual business paper report that's presented to you today. Those submissions are being considered on an individual basis, and the responses have been provided. In relation to other matters relating to water storage on the site, now obviously the application submitted has provided for static water sources for the actual development itself. There's been additional requirements put on this development by the Rural Fire Service, and those considerations will need to be accounted for in any application for a construction certificate on the land before either council or a private certifier can approve those dwellings for construction. So at this stage, we believe that the development in its current form is supportable, and obviously we've recommended on that basis. But again, it's a consideration by the councils. If you're not satisfied, then additional information can be requested.
Right, well,
But just in terms of that, like one question that councillor Livermore raised about the RFS requirement, just to sum that up, it is obviously valid, and the construction certificate wouldn't likely be issued unless that was supported in the brief.
based on your clarification there, councillor Larder, and the motion we have in front of us to go back into council.
Can I just ask Mr. Wilton one more question through
Yep.
you?
Councillor Thompson.
If the development application is approved and the owner then decides to sell the property, the development application is sitting there, do all of the compliance issues relate, or does it then just become?
Yeah, so in any development application or development consent that's issued is related to the land. So if the property is sold, any future purchaser has the benefit of that consent.
With
So
all
the
of the
approval goes with it, consistent with all the
Correct.
the requirements of that approval.
Correct.
Right, no further discussion. Committee, I'll move that we go back in. I'll put the motion that we go back into council. It's been moved and seconded. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Right now. Now, are the mover and seconder of the initial resolution happy with the amended? Councillor
Can't read
Hayes?
Anything else, Brent? Oh,
I'll be
Who was
glad
the
if I
second?
seriously can't read that.
The second was
It's
Councillor Thompson, I think. Who's the second?
Who's-
Get all that?
Hayes Thompson. That's
about
right.
halfway down.
But I'm
Sorry.
happy if Brent
Sorry.
reads it and confirms, because I.
Are we happy? The mover and seconder are
Just
happy with
reading.
that?
Just a question, Mr. Mayor. Picking up on Councillor
Councillor
Livermore's question about firefighting, that amount of water for each of those dwellings is going to be significant, and that's not a very big block.
6 hectares. That's it.
Well, based on the assumption of what assets are there, they're up for a minimum of 60,000 litres or 10,000 litres per pod, plus the other facilities. So
There's none.
probably 80,000 litres of stored water, static water that they can't access for any other purpose than firefighting.
And that's, I guess, if I may, Mr. Mayor, that's one of the issues, and I hear what Mr. Wilton's saying about a construction certificate. If they don't meet all those requirements, then they won't get a construction certificate. But because the plans for this development that we've got to assess are showing one 10,000 litre tank, which that's not a very big physical sort of presence on the land. But if all of a sudden it becomes 70 or 80,000 litres, they need to comply. All of a sudden the site becomes a lot busier, and the amenity, the visual amenity of the site is far different than what we've been shown in the plans.
That's exactly.
So there's a number of those issues to me that you would want to see that sort of detail about how they're going to manage these things.
Where is
And at the end of the day, that capacity for firefighting, that's something that's come with the Fire Safety Authority from the RFS. So that's not necessarily a negotiable thing. And those static water supplies for firefighting purposes, they can't be, nice coloured poly tanks. They've got to be either concrete or metal. So Now you can get, I suppose you can get a colour-blind oil tank or whatever. But are they going to do that in one tank, or are they going to do several tanks or whatever? There's just a number of things here that, to me, I would certainly want to know what's going on with these things to make an informed judgment about it.
So hypothetically, if those 6 pods were all joined together to become one building, then they only need 10,000 litres of water.
Well, that'd be up to the RFS. Now, they may
Hypothetically.
they may look at that quite differently. Because normally in bushfire prone stuff, usually even just for a single dwelling, they normally ask you to have at least 20,000 litres static water supply.
With storage fittings.
Yeah, with the storage fitting and so on.
And through you, could I ask
Councillor Armour?
Councillor Livermore, as far as what is potable water for drinking, can that be, because there's no way there's enough roof
They don't have to collect
to collect it. So can it be pumped from the river, or are there going to be other conditions then, because this is a commercial?
Well, look, maybe you can pump it from the river, but again, you would want to see the detail of how they're going to treat that water.
The treatment is what I'm asking.
You're not going to provide river water to people as a potable water supply. But again, that would require detail to say, well, okay, how are you going to treat the water?
Covered in item 2.
But my understanding too is that for
Probably
water to be accessed from that river, it's either for domestic or stock. It's not.
Well, stock and domestic.
So you'd have to apply for
You've got a
lease.
riparian right for stock and domestic water, basically. But for a commercial venture,
You'd need a lease.
they would need a licence to
Yeah.
pump. Would be my understanding. Now that doesn't mean that they won't get a licence to do it, but it's just the process they would need to go through.
Look, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the
Yeah.
amended, addresses the issue. As a mover and second are happy with that.
You could have a number 8 which says any further information that was required at the time or something along those lines, just to give us another option.
Oh, I think if you want further information, you've got to tell people
What you want.
Yeah.
You can't just.
The colour scheme.
Don't we?
So have we addressed all the issues that we believe need to be addressed before approving this?
I'm not
Councillor
sure.
Larder?
Well, I think if you're going to go back to them and ask them, we need to be,
Specific.
because the problem is, they've in good faith submitted this. It's already been going on for this amount of time. I mean, there needs to be some guidance about whether you're going to be happy with 170,000 litre tank, or you need to give them something to work with. I mean, because
In the whole scheme of things, a water tank, like a 120,000 litre water tank steel, is about $14,000.
That's right. It's not a
So
great
it's
deal
in
of
the
money.
whole scheme of things. You've got to find somewhere to put it, and you've got
You've got to be able to fill it.
We really want gravity feed or some alternative to get the water if you had no power,
That's right.
which you don't have in the.
I mean, realistically, if you're looking at it from a practical point of view, I would have thought it would have been better for the RFS to say that, you as a commercial operation, it couldn't operate when there's active fires. That would be a far more sensible option than having people up there in the Gandra Valley that can't get out. But
it's not a commercial, it's not a
No.
commercial operation, it's accommodation.
well, that's what I mean.
Commercial's not
Yeah.
permitted.
Commercial's not
Commercial's not
permitted in
permitted.
RU1.
Well,
That's what it's doing. Well, got to.
It's,
Anyway.
Question, but in relation to.
Yes,
fire
I'm happy
too.
with that, Mr Mayor.
Sorry,
Mr Mayor,
Councillor
Right.
is happy.
all right.
Yeah,
there
Councillor
was some
Ivan.
conversation about fire, in relation to evacuation of those type areas. That's managed by the Rural Fire Service as part of an overall fire management perspective. So they'll make a decision. That whole valley needs to be evacuated. So that'll be done as a whole of
Not just
evacuation
one
system, not
isolated
just
instance.
you need to get out or you don't need to get out. So that'll be done on a larger scale.
I reckon with that valley in a bad fire to be shelter in place. Because
Exactly.
You can't get out. Yeah.
But you would get, if you were a resident of that valley, you would get that information well before you needed to make that decision, like they did in Batlow. People were told, go now, because if you don't, you won't get out. So that would be the same up there.
You'd like to think so.
Yes.
Right, it will be. That's what happens.
Okay, well, the mover and seconder are happy with it. No further debate. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. And it's a planning matter, so would you be good enough to record?
No, it
Carried
was,
unanimously. There's two against.
Jenny, Ham and Larter were against.
Councillors Ham and Larter.
Against.
Did you vote on that?
Let's see, let me do it now.
10-2.
She's spelling
Where's 10-2?
it in later.
Several rounds.
We haven't even discussed it.
Take it on then, that's all.
We'll now go to 10-2, continuous use of completed earthworks.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move the second option.
The second option too.
to
Page
88.
76. Oh.
Option 2 has been moved by councillor Hayes. Is there a seconder? Councillor Larter. Any debate?
I'd just like to thank the councillors who attended the site and also the council staff who came up with its compromise.
Can I just also comment? I
Councillor
think
Thompson.
we had the public forum earlier today for and against, and I think that as a council, we just need to also be mindful that the timeframe that has been placed on it may need to be given a little bit of leniency just in relation to being able to access. But I think that there should at least be follow-up with the owners to ensure that of where they're up to, so that it's not open-ended.
I think it needs to be pointed out quite strongly, though, that the owners have gone against the DA.
They have.
Yeah.
They have, yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
They're getting
Like
up
they're acted contrary to the approvals that they had.
And so in saying that, in good faith, we're saying, right, this is a good compromise and whatever. What assurity do we have of a follow-up that this will actually happen and they will stick to the rules?
Well, at the end of the 3 months, or as councillor Thompson said, it might be a little bit extended
Yes,
because of
right.
the Christmas break. I'd imagine the council officers will inspect, and I'm sure the neighbours will make sure that it's compliant.
That is
Well-
probably a very good point.
They will definitely. I think it would be important in sorry, councillor Larter, but I think it's important to point out that they must operate within the requirements of the zoning, the residential zoning that they are part of. Anyway, councillor Larter.
I was just going to make the point, and I don't know where it goes, but there was an inference made in the public forum that there wasn't much of a buffer or screen protecting one of the neighbours, or maybe multiple neighbours, in terms of this. I don't know whether that's something that possibly should
Would
be
be
considered
included.
as a rectification thing as well, because
It is in there.
It is.
It is
It
in
is.
there.
There is.
They had
part
to
of the
plant a
conditions.
screen.
I think there is a requirement for some buffer type plantings.
I was actually looking at the photograph of the fence. I'm not sure that
As
they
long
can
as
get
that's-
this buffer zone in.
well, that won't be, like, if it's a fence or something, there won't be any demand on those neighbours to pay that.
No,
No.
well, that's my understanding. I
Well,
would
but there are
imagine that
local government
this is
acts
all
which-
cost associated with the development.
Yeah.
They can't shift the cost anywhere else.
Okay.
What does concern me is the ability to plant the so-called vegetation adjacent to the fence line, because if you look at the photos that we were given, I think some of it's already gravelled. Anyway, righto. So any further comments that anyone wishes to make? If not, I'll put the motion. All those, option 2 is the motion. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried 100%. Unanimous, right?
Unanimous.
All right, we'll go to 10.3, grant applications. Someone move the recommendation.
That's great.
Councillor Thompson. Is there a seconder?
That's been bad.
Councillor Ivel. Any discussion?
Only, Mr Mayor, to actually thank the staff for the amount of effort that they put into going through all of the applications and trying to distribute the funds across the Snowy Valleys Council region and across a variety of organisations. So an enormous thank you to the Director of Community Corporate and the team for what they've managed to do. It made it a much better process.
Well, I think I couldn't agree with you more about the process. I think it's certainly put it into a new context about allocation of funds, and everybody who wants to can have an input into the process. So yes, thank you very much.
Councillor Ivel.
Councillor Ivel.
Yeah, just a question through you, Mr Mayor. There's one of the organisations that is in a little bit of difficulty at the moment with their administration of their group, and the dollars that have been assigned to them. Where does that go if they don't require them? Is it reabsorbed
back into consolidated revenue?
Okay.
Happily.
Thank you. That's all I need to know.
Emergency services levy.
Yeah.
Or Anzac Day March.
Or Anzac Day.
Just saying.
I'm sure it won't go
To waste.
to waste.
Oh no, I'm not assuming.
No, but
that's
I
going to waste. I thought it'd be reallocated.
I often look at these
That's right.
grants and we need to be assured that they're acquitted appropriately, because the idea that we can just allocate communities money without appropriate controls is just not on. So I have a mover and a seconder. Is there any other debate? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried.
Mr Mayor, might I be excused as per my request by email last night?
Safeguard.
3:30.
Righto.
Councillor Haynes. Councillor Arnold.
Next item is 10.5. Sorry, 10.4, isn't it?
Yep, 10.4.
Committee membership recruitment applications. Is there a mover? Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded.
Councillor Hughes.
Councillor Hughes. Discussion.
Oh, look, only to say that I'm really disappointed to see, the youth council just not. Well, this is a start, okay, but it's only a small start. But I was very disappointed to see it not progress over the years, and it's been a great tool for the youth of our community to gain skills and expertise, and get them into the world of, be it politics or whatever. And some of our former youth council, and I don't know whether anyone heard the interview on ABC Radio with Sally Bryant with Jasmine DeMartin, who was a former chair of the Tumut Youth Council. It was outstanding, and some of the reasons she gave to join the youth council were great. I just don't see why that it doesn't. The youth aren't embracing it with the enthusiasm that they have in the past, because it's a great opportunity. I would like to see the youth council more youth driven, and I think the worst thing we can do with the youth council or with youth is to provide them with things to do. I think they've got to come up with those opportunities. Well, they need to come up with the ideas, and then we can do our best to make sure those opportunities
in my opinion, we facilitate
Yeah.
them being able to achieve those
Yes.
objectives.
So the youth council years ago used to run, it was a direct mirror of a council meeting. Same. And it worked particularly well. And then occasionally the youth would come and address the council. And I think, if we can get back to some of that more formal sort of teach them how to run meeting procedures and the like, we'll that will be great for our community and great for our kids. Why there's only one child from Tumut, I don't know. So, I'm
So how
disappointed, but happy to see that something is being done eventually.
How do we identify the players? Can someone tell me?
Is Jack Moxie not from Tumut?
No, Jack's the school captain over in Tumbarumba,
Oh,
and Atticus Blankets is the
Yeah,
school
Atticus.
captain, and Atticus has just done work experience with Dr. Joe McGurr, so he's showing his passion for politics. Great.
And he's got potential.
And just on that too, Mr Mayor, I think, and I take councillor Hayes' point of view, I think this is a fantastic opportunity, and hopefully these suite of young people that we've got in here, because we really need to think about this council into the future, where it's going to go, who's going to be part of that council, and you would hope some of these young people that are exposed to that would be thinking about that for something for the future for them. Because we need younger people.
And I think it comes back. I don't want to issue guidelines to these people. I just wonder if we should highlight options or potential areas that they could look at rather than give them guidelines and say you've got to conform.
Yep.
Just expand their horizon.
Leadership is following somebody, not telling somebody.
That's right.
One of the questions that Sally Bryan asked Jasmine de Martin was, so who are examples of some of these people that went through? And the names that she threw out was William Crichton, who just played at Glastonbury, Renata Zanetti, and just a few others, and they were outstanding young people. Who she mentioned.
Look, there's talent out there. You just need to unleash it.
Absolutely.
And they need to give them the opportunity to express themselves. This idea that we're here to control, that's a load of crap.
No.
I don't think it helps though that we don't have a youth officer anymore. That was beneficial when it was in there.
I think that's one of the. I disagree. I think the youth need to drive it.
Yeah,
They do, but they need direction.
But I think also
give them ownership.
That's something we can look at over the next 12
Yeah.
to 18 months and see if they want to do that. And if they do, great. If not, then we need to take Trina's comment on board. Yeah, we need a youth officer.
Councillor Larder?
I was just going to ask the question, do we actually run formally any work experience programs through the council?
Do we participate? Yeah, we do.
Yes.
That's another thing that the council could do is go out there and generate some, broader opportunities for work experience by, liaising with the providers within our community and saying, look, take on a kid for a fortnight or a week or whatever the situation.
Well, certainly cadetships and
Snowy Hydro do that very well.
Yeah, that's right. Well, one of my grandsons attended that and ended up working for his father. It's a plus. Just get out there and experience what opportunities are out there. Anyway, put the motion, and no further debate, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Righto, 10.5. Sale of property, Snowview Estate, Tumbarumba. Is there a mover? Councillor Ham, second, Councillor Livermore. Discussion?
I just think this is such a positive go forward. Let's do it, and try and do it in a fast manner rather than having it go for 3 or 4 years.
It's all dependent on our Director of Infrastructure getting the road sealed.
Right, it's all over to you.
No pressure.
No pressure.
No. Through you, General Manager, to the Chair, the road resealing works, as you will have known, has started.
I've
So
noticed.
it's well underway, and will be finished in the next 2 weeks. And I think it'll be looking in tip-top shape for anyone when we put these on the market who come up there to have a look. It will give a great first impression.
The issue is this is $630,000 over budget. That's a problem.
That's primarily due to the fact that it's 6 years behind. That's right.
But aren't we selling one of the houses to cover?
Yep, yeah. Well,
No,
no, they're
no.
selling one house with the view to
Build.
building another one in the new section
Right.
and retaining, what the recommendation is saying is we retain another
Look,
block with the potential to build another house on it for occupation by council employees, potentially. It's just,
I think it
Keeping the
needs to
options
be
open.
reviewed.
yeah, oh, yeah, that's right. But, it's just reserving
Getting
a
out.
block to be considered into the future.
Sure.
There's no further discussion. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried.
is that planning one? No.
It's not a planning one. Righto. 10 points. Is there a 10.6?
10.6, yeah.
Right,
Library.
move.
Classify land acquired,
Oh, right,
page
yeah,
107.
that's right, yep. Righto. Someone move the recommendation.
James. and
Councillor
Sam.
Hughes, a seconder. Councillor Larter. Any discussion? If not, this is dealing with the water reticulation system. If not, no further discussion. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Unanimous.
Not
10.7.
0.7. Can Cove and vacant land, Tyrrell Street.
that was my
So-
hand.
Councillor Ham, you move the recommendation. Seconder, Councillor Larter. Any discussion?
Okay.
Councillor Ham, do you wish to make a comment?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Just, I find this quite confusing. I don't find it very clear. And the thought of had the fellow right up the back having access all the way around that golf course, it's just messy. I don't. Am I missing something here?
Councillor Livermore, do you want to make a comment?
Well, only a couple of things. The first one in part one of that resolution, where it refers to the access over lot 2 DP 1088037. So at this stage, that access doesn't exist on the title. That access would be in relation to a proposed access for another subdivision.
Yeah, which doesn't exist.
Charles Finlay's land, yeah, it hasn't been registered and there's quite a story behind that. However, that was approved, the subdivision, and the subdivision certificate was actually issued. So delays for various reasons meant that it hadn't actually been registered. And in the interim, of course, that was approved when the golf club owned that block. So council now owns that. So I think that first part is probably not quite accurate in that you can't resolve to remove that if it doesn't exist. Now, the resolution at the time, because I remember something came up about it. Now, the resolution at the time could have been in relation to allowing an easement in favour of that lot 2, but that easement was never intended to benefit lot 2. It was intended to benefit the small lot that was subdivided. So that's the sticking point there. Now, and the other issue is in relation to that lot 1, which is the big bush block up the back. And I had a phone call this morning from the owner of that.
There's lot 3.
So he had concerns over that his easement, if it's taken off, then
He won't be
hasn't
able
got
to.
access to his land.
That's,
But
but that's one of my questions. Is that actually correct? Is that his only way of getting in there?
In a practical sense, yes. I mean, he could probably go up the power line, but
Yeah.
now he did indicate when he spoke to me today that Transgrid also have a key to the gate there, and they use that easement to get through in wet periods because they can't put up the power line. So yeah, there's a few complicating issues there, but point 5 of that resolution is probably correct in the fact that it would take negotiation with those people that have the benefit of that easement, because council can't just make a decision to remove it. They can only do it with agreement from those that have the benefit.
Could I ask the Director of Infrastructure to speak to this motion?
Sure. Through you, General Manager and Chair, the Councillor Livermore's correct in that the intent of resolution or recommendation number 5 is that we couldn't remove the easement if we didn't get concurrence from the adjoining property owners. So what we're asking council to do is to resolve there to let us undertake those negotiations and talk to them about getting approval. And if we can't get approval, then I would suggest I have to bring another report back to council to say that the easement is to remain on our lot.
So the sooner we get in this moving, the better.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Like, you know, based on the report, this place has been offered on a number of occasions. People have thought it's a wonderful idea until they find the impediments that are associated with it and then abandon it. You know, if we want to tidy it up so that it becomes a more saleable product,
Yep.
we've got to address these issues. So whilst they're conspiring over there in our absence,
There's a big gap. This other easement.
That's okay. We'll have our own meeting.
that's right.
And
We're going to run our meeting over here. Is that
through you,
okay?
General Manager and Chair, we do have to check a lot of the past plans that have been put in as well, because I want to be 100% sure that those easements are there and are in place, and also the subdivision plans.
So this motion's just starting.
The process.
The process.
Yeah, for the easement, we are asking council though to repeal the requirement that was on the previous resolution of a 2-year construction
Right.
period, which I'm not hearing any issues about at this
No.
point.
Not at all.
It's just the easement needs to be tidied up and we need concurrence.
So if the easement goes ahead, how much land are we talking about?
In the size of this site,
Sorry, no.
It's just that the easement goes through the middle of the site. That's the problem.
yeah, I don't have the length of it, but it looks like it's only 3 meters, 3 to 4 meters wide.
So it's not a lot.
We can sell it.
So that should be highlighted in the 88B instrument, shouldn't it? That's
Yes,
the
it
width.
is. Yeah. And so that's why I have to check. What Councillor Livermore is saying is that it's not,
Lot.
but I believe it is. So I'll have to just check that.
This is a block that is landlocked.
Hmm.
And so that must.
Righto, well, look, if there's no further, are you
Well,
3 happy over there?
almost delirious, but
I can imagine, that's right.
But I was just talking to Councillor Livermore and wondered whether we could actually create a boundary adjustment along that boundary from 3
To 2.
alongside lot 23 and just sell a little strip to him so he has got access
Access. On.
and at the same time generate some income.
Yeah, look, I can't see.
And that will give,
To me,
that will make that
That's a
block
good
of land for
solution.
him
Yeah.
a lot more
saleable.
saleable.
So, but
And tidy it
to
all
me,
up.
the major concern is the easement that wanders through the middle of the block to the golf course and then on. That's
Yeah.
the one that's causing the
That-
problem.
That's the one councillor Ham has identified
That's
is going
right.
to be trickier to clean up.
Yeah.
The one to Mr. Finlay.
Oh, this is the one you said isn't registered, so we can't see it on 6.
Yeah, that's right.
The
And that's,
one for Finlay is, there's
that's easy.
plenty of solutions. to
Yeah,
that
yeah,
one.
but it's the one for
The
lot
one that
one.
wanders through the block is the one that
Yeah.
causes us the problem.
Can't we revoke that?
Well, I don't see why we can't, but you know, we would need to offer an alternative for Joe Bloggs to gain access.
Well, the other option is we could subdivide it along both sides of that
Yeah, you could subdivide it into 2 blocks,
or more.
or yeah, if you wish, yeah,
Golf Links Estate.
create.
Nice
You've
views.
still got the easement there though.
No, but
Yeah, but
if you subdivide, if you
Subdividing.
split the block in
Yeah.
half along the easement, right?
It
or,
becomes the
you know,
access.
half split it in whatever proportion
You could
along the easement, you've created 2 blocks. And effectively a road through the middle of it, which may be beneficial in a subdivision.
I think, Mr Mayor, all those ideas will come out through the negotiation process.
Right, okay,
Okay.
righto. Everybody
Don't
happy?
discount them.
We're happy.
Sorry?
We don't discount them.
You're very open mind, councillor.
You'll keep us informed.
Righto. If there's no further debate, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried.
She's got to sleep now.
10. Excuse me.
10.8 is a late report
Right, all right, yes.
So you
we'll
might-
just-
from
we'll have to go and find it
Mr
in the-
Mitchell.
Have you? This is a late report, 10.8, dealing with the community recreational facilities management policy. There's a recommendation there. This proposed policy will go out for consultation for a 28-day period. And if council and councillors wish to make a contribution, welcome to do so. So would you move, councillor Ham?
Yes,
Move.
please.
Seconder, councillor Thompson. Any discussion?
Just that, yeah, it's going up 28 days, and I think there are a number of community groups just hanging up for this policy to get put forward, so then the agreements can be signed.
Couldn't
So,
agree with you more.
thank you for getting it together.
And could I please just request that the policy itself becomes a workshop item for us as councillors in the next fortnight so that we go through it. And that way we're actually having the time. As a late report, it hasn't been as easy to go through. So it just gives us an opportunity before it goes into a report or be finalised. Thank you.
Do you want to add that as a item 4 to that?
No, I think-
Righto, message taken.
Message taken.
Righto,
it's
okay. If anybody else wish to make a comment, councillor
I'm
Hughes.
looking, Mr Mayor, I'm looking forward to seeing a policy like this that can oversee a lot of these ambitions in the community. I think there's a lot of opportunity with the community and the council to have relationships like this with our infrastructure.
And
Right.
will be supplied with a list of facilities that it applies to?
Well, most definitely, I would imagine.
Well,
If we're going to get,
It would
are
apply
we not
to,
surprised?
sorry?
So we're not surprised at any stage?
Yeah, that's right, yes. We need to know, one, the submissions. The other thing is we've got to get an understanding of what's implied too.
Yeah.
Because it's a late report. So. Very good. No further comments. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Righto. I already had it. Next one.
Item
11.1.
Minutes.
Minutes of the-
Minutes of Audit Risk and Improvement Committee, 23rd of August. Is there a mover? Councillor Ham, second councillor Livermore. Any discussion? Wish to speak to?
Only if I may, Mr Mayor, in that one, it's probably pertinent these days. There was a recommendation from the committee that council write to the RFS to obtain a list of all their red fleet items.
Pertaining to Snowy Valleys Council.
Yeah, for Snowy Valleys Council in terms of under the current arrangement where we're meant to be covering the depreciation of those items, we probably be reasonable if we had an idea of what it was we were covering the depreciation
By
on.
way of depreciation. I was told on Friday that there's a private members bill before Parliament about the RFS, the Red Fleet.
Yep, correct.
Right.
So Adam Marshall's put that up.
Right. And so what's he suggesting?
Well, he's suggesting that they not be recognised in local government's books.
Right.
Good man.
Well, that's encouraging.
Absolutely.
So do we get more from?
We mightn't have to act on the recommendation.
Well, we will.
I'm sure we will.
Financial statements. But look, there
Anyway.
has been some information received from local government New South Wales, who obviously would have got it from RFS or Treasury around the Red Fleet with a big list of every council in the state, which we could sort by our council, obviously. That's one side of it, but then, you know, actually physically checking that those
Items
exist is another matter, which is a little bit trickier because it's, you know, you obviously got to go around the different brigade stations and
Do an inventory.
do an inventory if they're, you know,
Perhaps we could ask for a spare set of keys to each one.
Good plan.
The local RFS would be able to supply that information. On what brigade, on what Red Fleet they've got in their brigades now. They know that.
Private use agreement.
Does
You find
anybody
it
know
for us?
Physical.
No, John Gregory
say
could.
they-
John Gregory
they
could.
exist.
The RFS manager here, they have lists. They know who's got what.
Anyway, that's something in the pipeline.
They doubt
Hopefully,
it, Thomas.
Yeah.
the private members bill gets support because, you know, ongoing bone of contention within the organisation. Is there anything else, councillor Livermore, you wish to, sorry, councillor Larder, do you wish to?
Just in relation to risk, it would be pretty obvious that not having the upgraded airport would be a significant risk in the upcoming fire season. How have we progressed with relation to the RFS and progressing the airport upgrade?
Well, our last recommendation was that we engage someone with the appropriate experience. Do you wish to?
Mr. Mitchell.
Yeah, through you, General Manager, to the Chair. So we have now engaged consultants to prepare an options analysis, and they, one of the key deliverables they have to do is consult with the RFS on those options. The resolution of council was to get a presentation from the RFS to council, and I propose that once we've got this options analysis, which will be finished, I hope, before November, we bring that and the RFS to council to provide to present the findings. So that's where we're at.
Who's the consultant?
Aviation Projects Limited. They've worked for us before. They've presented to this council before on options for the aerodrome upgrade. So we're using them to prepare the options analysis.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Mayor? I drilled down into this year's state budget and I couldn't see any dollars in there for the Tumut Fire Control Centre. Is those dollars tucked away, or are they disappeared into the ether, or what's the story?
Look, I can't answer that question. I have heard rumours that the government's obviously looking at down every rabbit hole for every dollar they can find. Whether they've identified one here or not, I don't know. But
well, I didn't see any reference to a fire control centre in Tumut in the budget documents.
Now, whether that's funded out of a previous year's
that's the question.
Budget documents, I'm not sure, but
yeah,
I could ask our local member to.
And that's probably
identify.
a question for the Rural Fire Service through the General Manager.
Councillor Rival, as you're aware, you know, there is a resolution on the books to have the RFS present to an open council meeting.
Yep.
So I think we can put that on the list of questions that we would want them to address on the day.
Waste of time coming down if there's no money.
Councillor Larder?
Can I just, for the record too, state that the RFS did provide that information in the documentation in the early stages of that. So unless the parameters of the 802 bomber have changed in the last 18 months, I don't know that the information's any different. In fact, aviation projects were the ones that actually identified what length we needed after they'd had all that information. So, I mean, we just seem to be going around in circles, consultants, circles, more consultants, circles, inaction. Unbelievable.
Well, we've identified the flood issue, right? Which we need a solution to. You know, and look, I look at it and think, are we going to be flooding when we're trying to bomb fires? Probably not. However, it's the impact on the surrounding landscape during a flood that's an issue there. Look, you know, the need to address all these environmental issues has become more and more an impediment to progress than necessarily a solution to achieving an outcome. So look, it is where it is, and it's not for lack of trying to address the problem, but you know, any other questions?
Not questions, but a comment. My concern is that if there's no money there, then we're just wasting our time now. We need to know that upfront.
That's right, yeah.
Before the Rural Fire Service comes and talks to us.
Well, Councillor Rival, there was some other issues there. There was 3 issues on the agenda from memory, which was getting some information from us to their preparedness for the upcoming fire season. The heads of agreement for the building
moving there.
and also the lease agreement around hangar number 8, as I understand it, as well. So there was those 3 issues that we wanted them to present on.
Yep.
But clarifying obviously some funding as part of that would be
issue 4.
part of
Sure.
those issues.
Righto, okay, that's the minutes. We've got a mover and seconder. We'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Item 11.2, Disability Inclusion Access Reference Group.
I'll move
Moved
those.
by Councillor Thompson. Is there a seconder? Councillor Hughes. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, in the report, item number 5, it's the Disability Sports Australia event, which is a community development active inclusion sports day. I can't find anywhere either in this report or in the minutes where it actually specifically identifies the date or how it's going to be achieved. And I know there was quite a bit of discussion within the meeting itself. It is something that when we find out, I'd really encourage council to support. We need to raise the profile of our support for people with disability, and disability isn't always something that you see in a wheelchair. It can come in very many different ways, whether it's intellectual, whether it's visual, whether it's through hearing, or through physical. So I just really encourage when we get the information for councillors to keep an open mind of how important it is that this event, and it's completely staged by the Disability Sports Australia organisation. Council doesn't have to do the event.
So you'll keep us informed?
Yes. Thank you.
No further comment. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. 11.3, First Nations Liaison Committee. Is there a mover? Councillor Hughes, the seconder, Councillor Ham. Any discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. 11.4, Local Traffic Committee.
Moved.
Moved. Councillor Hayes, seconded by Councillor Ivel.
Just ask a question here, please. We notice all the event applications, and one of the things that people in the community have a perception, either correctly or incorrectly, that does or doesn't council have staff who are capable of doing the traffic controlling. And I know that each and every one of us has been informed about the issue with Anzac Day parades and the amount of money that it's going to cost just for the traffic control plans and then conducting it on the day. Can someone just give us a really quick as to why the issue with traffic control people exists and why it's not just a matter of council staff putting them out?
Through
Mr.
you,
Director
General
of
Manager, and the
Infrastructure.
Chair,
You're it.
happy to
Which
give an
bus?
answer. Look, there is capacity within council to do traffic control, and we do have trained staff that do traffic control, and they're used for council projects to assist us in the delivery of the vast number of roads projects that we do. But as you know, we haven't got enough staff resources to be able to cover all of our work. So we do use contract staff. We do use contract road safety and traffic control contractors to help us deliver those projects. So it comes down to resource availability of council staff to be able to do traffic control. And we do have staff, but we don't have a lot of staff who can do that. So the majority of that work, even on projects we use, is outsourced to contractors to help us with traffic control.
So just to ask a second part to that question then, if there are people in the community who have their traffic control ticket, trust me, I've seen them get them, can they volunteer if they choose to on the day? Is that permitted, that people can volunteer to use the ticket that they hold as a traffic controller to do this?
I think we'd have to obviously be careful with checking the qualification or the ticket that volunteers have.
Mm.
I'm not saying no to that, but it would be a risk for council to use volunteers for traffic control, because we have very strict accreditation processes for our own works and how we manage contractors. There's a very strict accreditation process, but also WH form that they have to fill in before we're satisfied on every single job that's specific to that job, that they have to satisfy before we say, okay, you're okay to use for this job. And it's the same with our staff as well. So if we were to use volunteers, they would have to go through that rigorous process as well, which they may find onerous, or they don't want to take it, because what we ask for in our requirements is one of the big stumbling blocks is public liability insurance. Do you have the required public liability insurance to perform this task or this activity on behalf of council or for council? If you're a staff member, staff are covered by council's public liability.
But not if they're not employed.
But the contractors who we use they have their own public liability insurance. I'm not sure where we'd stand with volunteers.
A volunteer was for his public liability from a community group. Would that suffice?
I don't think so. Not for something as important as traffic control and as risky as traffic control.
If it was endorsed to the effect that they covered that risk, that'd be.
If there's community volunteers out there that have their own have their ticket and their own public liability insurance for this sort of activity, there might not be as much as an issue.
The Rural Fire Service must have that because they use volunteers for Tumberfest.
But they might be using it under emergency protocols, which are different.
Yeah, they tell people where to park and where to go, and they put up barriers.
I get that all the time when I'm in Tumblr.
Yeah, they direct traffic. Absolutely.
Not as much as Mr.
They
don't use a stop and go back, but they do manipulate traffic around.
Yeah, during emergency situations.
No, Tumberfest.
Don't tell him.
Festival of Full Length.
Yeah, they probably shouldn't be.
Maybe I don't want to know.
Well,
that.
if to be quite honest, this is a major issue within Snowy Valleys Council area, and I imagine other local government areas. Why don't we put a little bit of time into seeing what alternatives are available?
This is a lot of money that we're throwing away.
Perhaps have you looked at asking the staff whether like to work on those days? Do you have enough staff?
No, I haven't put it to the staff, but it's something we could do.
Maybe they're better off getting the money than $4,000 for Adelong for close the road for an hour.
Yeah, you got a problem in Adelong. It's a state highway.
You can start on the other side of the
Tumbrumba's
street.
not greatly behind. There's only a few dollars difference in it.
Still $4,000
That's
for
right.
Sunday rates for council staff instead of $4,000 going to somebody driving from Wagga and back again on a Sunday.
Look, I think we
Anyway.
need
I don't think
to
we can.
canvass our staff and say, these are the
Even if-
issues that we confront.
Is anyone happy to
Does,
work on the
does,
day?
do you as the staff see a way forward which, can benefit you, can benefit the community and at the end of the day, benefits Snowy Valley's council? Now, I
I'm-
think
I'm
we're
happy to
probably making some
put it
assumptions
up.
out there without actually ground truthing them, for want of a better term. Okay?
Thank
righto.
you.
Yeah,
Through you, Mr Mayor, can I ask councillor Hayes a question because you're on the traffic committee? So the school crossing, Tumbarumba High School, and they've asked for a school crossing and it's come back saying, we'll give you an education program instead?
I believe a neighbour has asked for it.
Neighbour, it was a neighbour.
A neighbour.
So the traffic officer went up there, the road safety officer went up
Yep.
there and it did some speed and counted the amount of vehicles and counted the amount of children crossing. And it's not a lot of.
it doesn't warrant it, to be quite
No.
honest. It just doesn't warrant it, If we're worrying about a crossing, you'd have one in the main street. We can't even get that, so.
No.
Because
So
they're
what-
dangerous.
The kids,
Traffic lights?
But so, it was a concerned resident and so we
Look,
looked at it.
Yeah, no, that's all right. That's just
just why,
trying to interpret what it's
councillor
saying.
Ardo, you go first. I've got an issue I want to raise.
Yeah, well, look, I was just going to say that I think this problem is more extensive than just the traffic stuff, because I think this over governance is just completely taking over people's lives. I mean, when you're telling a pony club that because they might be directing a few cars here and there in some remote regional town that they got to have $5,000, and then they've got to have an ambulance on standby because so they've got to get it's another $4,000, and then they've got to pay the council to do a traffic management plan and all this rubbish. It is completely ridiculous. I mean, I can understand them doing it at major traffic works and wherever else, but I mean, when you're imposing this, and then you've got to say you've got to have public liability, and 5 different organisations involved in the one event are paying the same insurance company the same public liability insurance to cover the one event. I mean, it's just money laundering, grabbing. They're just thieving, and we need to have a review of all this at a state level because this is just crackers.
I couldn't agree with you more. Look, I had an experience overseas of going through small towns in a number of countries, and at the approach to the small town, there was a little square sign, probably, I don't know, let's say 450 by 450, that is displayed your speed. If we had some of those at the approaches to our towns or in those strategic locations, I'd just be interested to know what they cost, right? Because they were, they were like they were everywhere, just highlighting the speed of the driver at the time. And I think look at the approaches to our towns. Certainly the school zones. I'm sure if you put one up in the school zones around our individual towns, you'd see 40 k's. What's that?
Yeah, you see that a lot on roadworks now.
Yeah, but they only
you've
have
got
to
the
be little
smiley
ones.
face with
They're
the
only
sad
small
face.
ones. They're not those monumental things with a machine and posts and goodness knows what else. They're just screwed on the wall, particularly in Europe. They're just screwed on the wall of a building.
I've seen them. We do have 2 of those. I think they're trailers.
We do have those big ones.
Yeah, big ones. And you might have seen one outside the special school. So it was there for quite a while. It's gone somewhere now. But not only does it do that, but it also records the speeds of the vehicle, so you get that data as well.
Right.
That's a lot more than what you're.
That's right. I'm just, if
agree
people
with
see that they're doing 50 k's, maybe.
There's plenty
Anyway.
there's plenty of examples where that sorts of signs have been installed.
Yeah.
No.
Right.
We could put some on our smart poles.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. 11.5. Glenroy Heritage Reserve Committee. Is there a mover?
Is it a hand?
Councillor Ham. Seconder? Councillor Livermore. Any discussion?
Just said, Anne Thorogood received her OAM yesterday.
She did she?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she did.
So
So-
we sent her a congratulatory.
We have, and there might be something at the nest that I invite all councillors, but local councillors might like to come to,
Yep.
just in celebration. So,
Sounds
and I might send Donna the link of her getting her medal.
very good.
Very good idea.
That could go in
From the governor or the
newsletter.
governor
It
general?
should go in
It
the
should go in the newsletter.
Mm.
Yep.
From the governor or the governor general?
governor.
Sydney or
Sydney.
Canberra? Sydney.
Very good. No further discussion. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried.
We close the door and turn off.
Item 12, confidential,
Moves that we go into confidential.
moved by councillor Thompson, seconded by councillor Austell. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried.
We
Turn